Hi everyone, Nubkeks here with a quick spoiler warning before diving into today's video. You're going to be seeing an optional level 90 dungeon as background footage today, so you can see that level 90 samurai job in full swing. So yeah, just if you don't want to see the dungeon, it's a happy face dungeon, let's put it like that. If you don't want to see it, then you might want to listen to the video and not actually watch the visuals. But without any further ado, let's dive in. Oh my goodness, guys. Christmas has truly come early in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. We're answering the question in today's video, is Samurai a fun job at level 90? And as you can probably tell by my hype, I'm wearing my Christmas t-shirt, it's Christmas Eve. Yes it is. Samurai at 90 is just a complete joy to play. And I really see it as my job now in this video to explain to you why that is, what makes it so good, and why the changes they put in just make it flow so well. To explain like the core of what I enjoy about Samurai first of all, because I think there's a core there that sort of has persisted between the expansions and was what made it really fun in Shadowbringers. And then we'll talk about the changes and what's made it just taken it to another level in Endwalker. At the core of the job, what makes it very fun for me is that you're juggling a bunch of different things which all require a little bit of thought and constantly keep you engaged. So for example, with your core combos, your core rotation, your filler rotation, you're building up your sand stickers, right? So for your single target rotations, you've got your 3 different combos, which each give you a different sticker. And you're just constantly thinking about those stickers. Which ones am I going to earn next? Which combo am I doing next? And then spending those stickers on your finishing moves, right? So mostly Madare for your big 3 sticker spender for your massive single target hit, or Tenkagoken and AoE for 2 stickers. You're always thinking about that and planning around it. On top of that, you've got then your Kenki gauge, which is basically fueling a whole bunch of OGCD abilities that are constantly being woven through your rotation. And it's sort of it's a question of balance with that Kenki gauge, right? Because it's quite easy to overcap it. You can't spend it super fast, right? The fastest you can dump it is 25 Kenki per OGCD with Shinten. That takes a while to dump, but you always want to have a little bit in the can. You want to have a little bit of Kenki built up because you need to basically be using an OGCD in Kaiten to buff every single finisher that you cast. Every single time you use Ayajutsu, you want to be buffing it with Kaiten. So you're always having a little bit in there, and there's constantly those OGCDs woven in, and then the extra Kenki you're building up, you're getting to spend that on then those OGCD abilities for extra damage. So that's another little thing to manage. Then on top of that, you've got your meditation gauge, which unlocks the Shoha and new Shoha 2 abilities, really hard-hitting OGCD abilities, and you get a meditation stack for every time you use Ayajutsu or your new level 90 ability, Ogi Namakiri. So again, you're balancing these meditation stacks. And then on top of that, you've got a whole bunch of cooldowns, very much centered actually around like the 2-minute mark. So you've got Ishikoten on a 2-minute cooldown, which gives you a bunch of Kenki, and also unlocks your new level 90 ability, Ogi Namakiri, which is Uber Madare, basically. It's super Madare. It hits so goddamn hard. It hits in AoE. It feels good. And then that's going in every 2 minutes. Then you've got Gyoten, you've got Seine, your big Kenki spenders again on 2-minute cooldowns for massive single target hits or a massive line AoE hit. And yeah, one fun thing too for sure is that all of your cooldowns basically are just you hit something really hard. It's not about buffing your team or slowly doing damage. It's like, no, I hit you really hard with my sword. And who doesn't love doing that? It's just super satisfying. So it's just like juggling all those things. It's like your cooldowns with your sand gauge, with your Kenki gauge, with your meditation gauge. It's all this stuff comes together into this glorious package that it's just, there's always stuff to do. There's always interesting stuff to do. There's never really a point in your rotation where you're going, man, I'm bored. There's not really much to do here. No. There's always stuff to do. And you're constantly thinking, which is just so good. Now, in terms of the changes that came through an Endwalker that make this just so much better. Number one, seeing as we're in a dungeon, let me talk about the AoE rotation. Oh, beautiful. Big change they put in, again for a lot of jobs actually, but for Samurai in Shadowbringers, right, whenever you wanted to get your buffs up, right, you get your buffs in Shadowbringers from doing your single target combo, but you didn't get those buffs from doing your AoE combo, which meant that, going into a dungeon, going into an AoE pull, if you didn't have those buffs up, that was like 5 GCDs at least to get your buffs on before you could switch into AoE. That's a huge amount of time. That's like over 10 seconds, really, getting just ready to AoE, which sucked. Well, in Endwalker, that has been changed. Your AoE combo now just straight up gives you those buffs. So when you go into a dungeon and you pull that first pack in the dungeon, you're not waiting 10 seconds doing a single target combo, crying tears of shame while the rest of your team is AoEing happily. No, you are in there doing AoE damage too with them, which is just so satisfying. Another really nice thing as well, actually a smaller change, one of the smaller changes but satisfying, is that they actually gave you an upgrade to your basic AoE, the starter of your combo. It comes in at level 86, and it is upgrading. Let me get the actual name. It's Fuko is the name of the new ability, Fuko. And the fun thing about this is it turns your AoE starter from a cone attack into a circle around you, which is kind of nice, right? It's kind of nice. You've got now a whole bunch of circular AoEs. I actually think it's quite hilarious that the samurai goes from being... in single target, I feel like, you're quite graceful, these calm measured strokes, powerful sword strokes, and then you go into your AoE combo, and suddenly you're this, you've gone from watching like, I have learned the way of the blade, the way of the wind, of grace, to going, I have learned the way of Beyblade, and I'm just fucking spinning like a madman, and I'm just spinning. You're going crazy. You're like this whirling tornado. Just put out your sword, stand on like a spinner, and just go. It's kind of hilarious, but it also feels really good. That's with Fuko. Again, Fuko also gives you more Kenki, which means more Kenki to spend on OGCDs, which was something that was kind of slower for sure in Shadowbringers. I actually feel like that 5 extra Kenki per Fuko cast, it actually adds up pretty quickly to feel pretty substantial, and you get to weave in a lot more of those OGCDs for even more spins while you are in AoE, which is definitely nothing to complain about. Speaking of spins in AoE, level 82, you get Shoha 2. So this is the meditation spender that now works in AoE, which feels good. And even on top of that, even more importantly, I felt like in Shadowbringers with Samurai, Shoha was just kind of there. It was just an extra thing, but it didn't feel that good. It didn't hit that hard. Well, when they rebalanced potencies for Endwalker, they took a lot of damage out of your other abilities, and they put a big chunk of potency into Shoha, and a big chunk of potency into Shoha 2. And the end result is that Shoha now feels like a very satisfying, very, very meaty hit. Shoha does not feel like, just this little afterthought in your rotation. Shoha now feels like a highlight, which is what it should feel like, which is just great. And then the fact that it goes into AoE with Shoha 2 at 3 or more targets, again, it's just wonderful. That's a brilliant change. Gosh, I actually forgot to talk about probably one of the most important changes as well, which is that, okay, we talked about in AoE how you get your buffs up straight away. We need to talk about the new Makoshisui and how they've changed that. Well, number one, you get 2 charges of Makoshisui at level 88. Again, like, it's not like double, you get twice as many casts of Makoshisui. No, not at all. You get a couple of casts in your opener now, which is nice. It makes your opener more explosive, more bursty. That feels good. But of course, after that, your 2 charges are gone, and you're only ever regenning 1 at a time. But the big difference is the stress that it removes from the Samurai rotation, right? Instead of going, Makoshisui about to come off cooldown, I need to use it on cooldown as soon as it comes off to get my best damage out. Now, you can delay it, right? You can think about it, you can plan it, you can try to pool up your charges so that, you can save it for when it's going to overlap with raid buffs more. You can make those decisions. There's now a decision-making process. In a dungeon situation like this, Makoshisui comes up, but we're near the end of a pull. I can go, that's cool. I'll just let the second charge start regenning, and I'll save my first charge. We get into the next pack. Now I'm going to pop it. Now I'm going to start blasting. And again, that's just so satisfying, so fantastic. The same thing, in fact, I swear I will talk about the big Makyo change. The other thing that we get is at level 84. Excuse me, 84. You get enhanced Tsubame Geishi, which gives you a second charge of Tsubame Geishi. And again, this it's the same exact sort of thing. You're not stressing anymore about using Tsubame Geishi on cooldown, which could always be a fairly stressful thing, right? Because you want to use it on Midare, but if you don't have the Sen built up to go into a Midare as Tsubame Geishi was coming off CD, you could feel pretty terrible about it, and you could really be delayed and really put it out of sync. Not so anymore. And again, because it's a 1 minute cooldown, what it does mean is that you can basically save it up very easily. You can play around it in that raid setting, right? And playing around the 2 minute raid cooldowns, and you can bank up 2 charges of Tsubame Geishi to really blast on those 2 minute CD windows. Again, super satisfying. Okay, it is time to talk about the Makyo. It's time to actually talk about this change, which is brilliant, and it's a simple change. Very simply, when you pop Makoshisui and you do your finishers to your single target combos, it now gives you their respective buffs. Oh, it's so good. So again, in Shadowbringers, when you start off the fight, you would have to slowly go through your single target combos to get your buffs on, and then you could use your Makoshisui, and then you could get blasting. But you had to invest those 10 seconds of GCDs, really, to get to that point. Not so anymore. Now, on pull, I actually did an opener video on Samurai, so you can check it out and how fast it is now. Now, on pull, just straight in with Makoshisui, straight into your attacks, straight into big blast to big burst damage. And it just cuts out a whole lot of stress. It cuts out a lot of boring filler and replaces it with blasting, which is just super fun. And yeah, I already mentioned Ogi Namakiri, the ability you get at level 90, which again, just feels great. Oh my goodness. So yeah, all this stuff comes together, and what you have with Samurai now is a job which flows really, really well. I feel like more than any of the other jobs that I've played, it feels like you are syncing up in particular with that 2 minute cooldown window, right? It really feels like you're rewarded for it because you've so many cooldowns coming up at 2 minutes, and you can bank your charges of your abilities now and prepare them for those 2 minute windows. It just feels very satisfying, right? When I was going into, and when you're doing the extreme trials, it felt good to be thinking about that, to be planning around it and optimizing, and always be planning ahead and going, okay, I'm preparing. Okay, my 2 minute CDs are coming up in 30 seconds. I'm banking my stuff up now. I'm getting prepared. I'm ready to go. Yes. That is such a satisfying feeling. Honestly, I have really no complaints about the job. I guess my only complaint might be, or something to look forward to, I suppose, is I imagine next expansion they'll probably upgrade Tenka Goken to be a circular AoE as well. That is one thing that can be a little bit clunky with the rotation. The one and only thing, actually, I would say, which is that now, because all of your other AoE abilities are circular, they're around you in a circle, you're sort of standing in the middle of packs to make sure that you hit everything and get maximum cleave. But then when you want to go Tenka Goken, because it's a cone coming out of you, you kind of have to go walk out of the pack and try position so the cone's going to go in the right way, because you have to target from you to a particular enemy. And sometimes it doesn't go the way you want to, and a single sad samurai tear rolls down your face, and you feel bad. But then, I don't know, you fire off Ogi Namakiri and then you're happy again, and it's not a big deal. But that is one thing I expect they might add, just a circle AoE upgrade to that next expansion, again, to give you a tangible upgrade that feels good without button bloat. Because I feel like it's hard to imagine what more you could add to this current version of Samurai. It's hard to imagine what you might add. I don't know, maybe upgrade Shinton to just, kind of like Reaper has with its soul gauge spender, where every time you alternate it, it has like a slightly different animation. Just give a couple of different animations to Shinton with a couple of different potencies, but nothing too crazy, nothing that really affects gameplay. Because let me know what you think if you've been playing Samurai, but I honestly feel like it flows so well. I can hardly think of really anything much that I would like to change. Another great change I forgot to mention, now that I think about it, is that you basically have a few abilities that you never ever used before that you can now use. In particular, I'm thinking of NP. NP is your ranged attack as Samurai. In Shadowbringers, this used to break your combos, which for Samurai was just an absolute no-no, because, again, your combos are tied into generating your Sen stickers, your Sen gauge. If you break that combo, you completely throw everything off. You just can't do it. Now, you absolutely can use NP. So suddenly it becomes a satisfying part of your rotation, a viable part of your rotation, to actually do that, to actually use it. On top of your now higher Kenki generation as well, you can now dash out with Yaten, which is, a 10 Kenki spender to backstep. That gives you enhanced NP, throw out your NP. Then you can run back in, or you could dash back in if you want to with Goren. And it just gives you, it's just satisfying, right? Because now you can do that. You can go out and you can still keep your stuff on cooldown on GCD, throwing out NPs when you have forced downtime from the boss. And then you can go back in and just pick right back up with your combo. It doesn't break your combo anymore, which is it's glorious. It's such a huge improvement. It really is. But yeah, I think that's basically all I have to say about Samurai, to be honest. It's just phenomenal through and through. It's phenomenal through and through. It's tons of fun in AoE, tons of fun in dungeons, in questing now, in doing the MSQ or whatever it is that you're happening to do with the changes to Makoshisui and that you instantly get into doing your burst damage. It's now much faster. You don't have that 10-second build-up anymore. And yeah, it does seem like it's worth mentioning, I guess, in terms of the logs and stuff like that right now and the game balance. Whereas in Shadowbringers, the end of Shadowbringers, Samurai was like on the top of the DPS charts. That doesn't seem to be the case quite now. They're still up there, like they're still at the top, but now Reaper and Monk seem to be up there as well. So you do have more competition in that vein. And if you're playing Samurai purely for the aspect of being, I am the undisputed #1 DPS job in the game, melee DPS job, just blasting it out. That's maybe not the case anymore. Reapers may be stronger for sure, on top of the utility that they bring to the team. But Samurai, it's just so much fun. It's just a step up in terms of fun. And for me, that's what really matters. You know what? We just blasted off an Ogi Namakiri there in the background, which just makes me feel good. So, you know what? We're leaving it there. That sums up my thoughts on Samurai. Couldn't recommend this job more. From World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV, this is probably my favorite job or spec or just gameplay style out of everything I've ever played in those games, I think. Like, it's just so good. It's so good. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.